going on, everyone? It's Sunday, August 23rd. I know it's been a couple months since the last video, but just to touch on that, just had a couple things going on in between, so I haven't really had a chance to make an update. But I do want to get back into it. Try to get out a couple videos a week if I can. Price action was a little boring in between that triangle that we were thinking about here, but I don't want to let that stop me from making videos, so I'm going to try to be a lot more consistent with it coming up. And I will have a bit more free time, so I think that should be okay. So I do think that Bitcoin has officially entered a bull cycle, so I'm going to speak about that. And, compare it to our previous cycle as well. That way we can speak about why I believe that we have entered a new cycle and what signs I'm seeing for that. And then hopefully we could come up with some type of game plan um, for this upcoming cycle. So just to kick it off, really, I do want to speak about the triangle that the majority of my videos had been about prior to uh, my short hiatus, I guess. So this was our triangle here. Initially did start off looking to me like an ascending triangle where we had our low here, and our low area here. And we had a nice consistent sell zone or supply zone up top. Um, Obviously, that didn't end up playing out exactly the way we wanted it to, where we did end up starting a short term, a little down move over here. We had some lower highs and lower lows. Towards the end of it, though, we did end up cupping around where we had this kind of rounding action towards the bottom of the triangle. Started making some higher lows, and then we, of course, did break out of this region here. So quickly, I do want to mention that I think that the majority of the move for just this initial breakout here has already played out. And I say that, and I do want to stress that it's just this initial breakout that I think has played out, because I do think that we are in the beginning area or the beginning time of our next bull cycle. So why do I think that? We'll come out to the weekly chart here. Really simple for me, to be honest. I've just been looking for a major behavioral change. Since our highs here at about 20,000, and you can see we haven't had a weekly close above this. If we're being precise, it's really above 11,480 or so. We haven't had a weekly close above this area since really January of 2018, right? So we had this candle here, which did close, above 10.4, and then we were unable to do that for some time, really almost 3 years or so, right? So here we are, first week of August. You could see that the candle did close above 10,480 or so. We got up to 10.5. And then you can see the following candle also closed higher, closer to 12,000 or so. We're getting a little bit of a step down now, but the main thing I want to point out is that close above really 10.4, 10.5 area. I'm sorry, 11.4, 11.5 area. So that behavioral change is extremely significant to me, and I'll show you why. Just to take a quick look at our previous cycle here. You can see that we had our highs, around $1,100 or so in November, December 2013, and really we didn't have any weekly closes within this area, even this entire triangle here. It was really until the breakout of the triangle that we finally had a behavioral change, because this triangle could have always broken down. Right here, and we would have had just a continuation of the downtrend, and who knows what would have happened after that. But this breakout right here, about 4 weeks of pretty much just upside action. It wasn't until this candle here, first week of June 2016, you could see that the weekly closed, around 670 or so, and that was again above any weekly closes for about 2.5 years from that point. So you could see that it was June of 16, that we broke out above this and closed at around 670 or so. And we hadn't had any price action like that for a couple of years. The last time really that we were anywhere close to that area was June of 2014, and we closed around 660 or so. And then you could see that the following price action the weeks afterwards, we had no follow through, and price just broke down out of that. So that's just a significant reason as to why I believe that we are entering the next cycle. And I do want to point out one more extremely significant thing here. So we had our exit out of our bear market with a triangle here, and even though we had a major breakout, we could just measure that really quickly here, almost 80%. So 75%, move out of this triangle here. But I do want to stress that from the top down, we did end up breaking right back down to, I want to say the supply line or the supply zone of this triangle here, that we broke out of. And that was about a 40% move back down. You could see that it was pretty much a perfect retest of the 55 EMA here on the weekly chart. But I just want to stress that even though we know now, because of hindsight, we know now that this breakout led to our bull market. And even though we dumped 40%, just a few weeks after our major breakout here, that this was, without a doubt, the beginning of our bull market here. So that's significant. And if we could look at the previous cycle, I want to show something, very similar here as well. This is a Bitstamp chart, so you can't see the previous price action here, but we had a bear market-ish situation here, or a bear cycle, if you want to call it, and we exited that cycle again with a triangle. It definitely wasn't, an ascending triangle by any stretch of the definition, but definitely a triangle nonetheless. And you can see again we got a major breakout of that triangle, but from the top back down here, we did fall 60% before continuing the cycle. So I point those out just to speak about the current context of Bitcoin, because though we did get this breakout here, and we've had a nice solid, almost 6 weeks here of positive price action, I am expecting a down move here. So we noticed that our initial cycle, we fell a much larger, I believe it was about 70% or so, where we fell from. Okay, so it's about 55% or so. And then our second cycle here, top to bottom, about 40%. So I wouldn't, from 50 to 40, it does seem like the drops are getting less significant as we move forward, which is, it makes sense because because Bitcoin price is much higher. So I wouldn't doubt, a dump here of somewhere around 30 to 35, maybe even 40%. And just to show what that would look like from the top to the bottom, we are seeing a 30% drop, bringing us down to about 8,700 or so. So not that I'm looking for that price specifically, but I am prepared for a drop back down to 8,800 or so. Even though I don't think that that's where we'll get to, I think that might be a little bit of a stretch for the lows there. And I don't try to predict lows, but just to get an idea of where we could end up. I do think that the 21 and the 55 EMA, really anywhere between these 2 points would be a reasonable drop, a reasonable retrace from this region. So you can see if we just fall from from where we are now down to the 21 EMA around 9,700 or so, that would be about a 20% break, which again would be reasonable to me. Uh, that would bring us down to about 9,800 or so. Yeah, that would be a pretty reasonable amount to me. And one more thing about our previous, um, I want to call it like a bull market retrace or something. We came down almost exactly. Let me just zoom in so we can see this. So our low here that we came back to is 466. This was pretty much the exact, uh, supply line of our ascending triangle before our breakout. And we retested that pretty much perfectly. Again, it was on the 55 EMA. And from that point forward, we just rallied really hard. Um, and you can see that that weekly candle, though we did come all the way down here, we actually didn't. We came down to the 55 EMA. We actually closed that candle at and well above the 21 EMA, and then followed by a couple retests of that area. We had our bull cycle begin. So I wouldn't doubt a move down to the 21 EMA at all, and the 55 is a bit more a bit more of a stretch, but I am expecting it or I'm preparing for it just in case. So I want to bring out a chart that I had. I had recorded a video on prior to our breakout from 9,300 region, but I didn't get a chance to upload it. So I just want to bring it out now, and we'll speak on it. So it's a really simple chart, and I don't often use diagonal lines like this, but I do want to use these almost as a zone um, for really behavioral change in Bitcoin, or at least in Bitcoin's price action. Uh, so here on the weekly, I'll just explain the chart really quick, and I'll explain where where the points are coming from, just so that we could go down to the daily and speak about it a little bit deeper. So really quickly. I pretty much have three zones set up here: an A zone, B zone, and C zone, we could call it for now. And you can see that the initial A line here is pretty much just from the body close around 18.8, 18.9 or so. And from that, I've tried to incorporate as many candle body closes as possible. So you can see really the main one, the main group here and here, and then you can see that it acted as really good support in that area there. So that to me was pretty solid. The top of the A zone here, I began really in the following three lines. I begin from the wick high, really our all-time high around 20K. And so I incorporated as many wicks as possible into that. And you can see that from this wick here and this wick area here, it provided a really good, resistance zone within this area. You can see that we weren't able to get really more than one close above this area for this entire 2 months or so while we were consolidating here. And then the next line, which is really the ending of the B zone here with the bright yellow line. Again, all-time high, wick high here, wick high here, and then you could see that this was, again, because of hindsight, we can see that this was a really, really solid line of demand here. I'm sorry, of supply here. We can see that we didn't get our close here, but we came right up to this point. We touched it, and then we were able to close around that area, which again was above our really our triangle supply line here. And then you can see the final line here, really just the highs, the two highs that we had at the time. All-time high, and then our June 2019 high. So going down to the daily, the reason I was using these zones, really just since getting back into these zones, really from the 2019 run here, we could see a couple things with Bitcoin price action. So when we first came up to this region, excuse me, in July 2019, we could see that we weren't able to get really, even 3 days of really even 2 days of Bitcoin price action closing above multiple zones. So you could see we initially closed above this zone here, the A and B. We closed into the B zone, but the following week, the following day, we got kicked right below all zones. Again, we had another attempt here. Following day, we get kicked right below. And you can see that that was really a consistent pattern over this, symmetrical triangle. More or less, to me, this was a descending triangle that was forming here in 2019. But you can see that was really the cause of our lower highs, um, in this region. And then I do want to mention the next time we came to this, came to this region or this zone again, was really early this year, January, February, and you can see it was a much weaker um, attempt at this zone than June 2019 was. And you can see that because really we came up to the initial zone here, and though we did last in this region a bit longer than we did really any of the times that we came up here before, you can see that we didn't get multiple attempts. That this was the end of our rally, and that was it. We weren't going to build a consolidation pattern here like we did in 2019. This was the highs, and from that point we just had lower highs and lower lows, and that began really the downtrend here. And you can see, as we entered these zones again here in April, May of this year, the behavior was immediately, initially, different from the two times that we had been up here before. So you can see that it was kind of choppy when we first got up here, similar to this region here. But really, for me, it was immediately right here as we got supported by the 21 daily here. By the 55 daily here, where you could see our initial time coming up here in 2019. The 55 didn't really provide, strong support. We did come down to, I believe this is the 100 here. So the 100 EMA. We did come down to the 100 EMA, and that gave us, a little bit of supporting price action for a little while before we broke down. But it's really when you stay above the 21 and the 55 that the trend is, a lot stronger than something like this where we come down to the 100. So you could see that the 55 supported us and gave us really a second test into this B zone here. And again, from this B zone here, I got a bit of confirmation on my zones from this line here. We came up pretty much exactly to the top of this B zone area. And from that point, we backed off, of course. But what's significant is what happens after we back off. So we back off from this area here in 2019. You can see we have a major, probably a 20% crash back down. Yeah, so about a 20% crash back down to the 100 EMA. And from that point, you could see pretty much price action just gets faded in this area here. Whereas when we come up to the B zone for a second time, for a second test here, you can see we do come down as a pretty heavy drop, but we don't fall out of this range at all. We stayed within the A zone here, and we start consolidating in that A zone. And again, in the video that I didn't have a chance to upload, we were right in this zone here, end of the A zone, and I had pretty much printed a line just like this, and I was speaking about the fact that we're consolidating towards the top of this B zone here, as opposed to price action coming down and maybe doing something like this where we come down and we had price action like that. Us consolidating towards the top of this B zone, A zone here, showed me that we're maybe not ready to break out, but we were ready to test this B zone one more time. And that's exactly what we did. And I was, a bit surprised here. We kind of just, we didn't even really come back to test this B zone at all. We just pretty much broke right through it. This also led to a breakthrough of this C zone, I guess, up top here. But this is why I am considering a major drop, maybe back down to the 9,000 area or so. Really, it looks like it looks like we're a bit extended here. I do want to bring out the RSI to show that we do have some classic bearish divergence going on here. We do have some bullish as well, which I'll speak about. But initially, let's speak about the bearish divergence here. So really easily pointed out, we have a high in our RSI here, high in our price action here. We have a lower high in our RSI here, but we have a higher high in price action here. So that right there is a classic bearish divergence on the RSI. And it tells us that price action is, likely to come down. Has that move played out? We've seen about from the highs to the lows, maybe a little bit above, around 9% or so. So I don't think on the daily that move has played out just yet. I do think that we'll probably get a retest of this, end of the C zone here around 10,600, 10,500 or so. And that might be, the play out of this daily bearish divergence going on here. But at the same time, we do have some bullish divergence going on here. It's not confirmed 100%. The reason I say that is if we do continue to come down here, then I would believe that the bearish divergence is taking precedent. So we can see the bullish divergence here. We have our low on our price action here, a higher low and a higher low, whereas RSI, we have a low on our RSI, we have a lower low and a lower low, signifying that strength is, trying to get price action to go down, or sellers are trying to get price action to go down, but you can see that there isn't much follow through happening on their end. Where I would see that follow through, I guess, kind of come to light, where a lot of people might start jumping on the ship or jumping off the ship, is really if we break below yesterday's low here at 355, 11,355. I could see probably us getting back to this 10,500 region. Although I do think that even if we just wick below maybe 11.4, 11.5 area, that will probably get that retest of this 10.5, 10.6 area again. So that's the chart that I wanted to show. For a little while now. I do think that this chart is going to be successful in the long term. I do want to mention one more thing about that breakdown. We have our 21 pretty much in line with the top of our B zone here around 98, 9,900 or so. And then same thing for our 55 EMA. It's pretty much lined up with the top of our A zone right here. So I want to say that for the next couple weeks, maybe even the next couple months or so, what I think price action will be doing is finding a way to retest this area. And I say finding a way because we could see that in our previous cycles, and really, any time in Bitcoin can make any move that it wants. It can consolidate just to test lower, it can consolidate to test higher, or it can quickly just, run down all of the cells and just run right through the entire order book just to quickly get that liquidity, from a zone. So how Bitcoin makes it to this area, I don't think anybody knows, but I do want to say we can see that in our previous cycle here. I want to mention a couple things actually. So in our previous cycle here, our consolidation before a breakout was almost an entire year, right? This is the majority of a year from November 15th to May 16th, May 2016. We were just in this ascending triangle region here, whereas from our breakout, or really from our break up into this triangle area to our breakout, a couple weeks ago, This was just about 100 days or so. So, you know, pretty much half the time that we spent uh, consolidating in this region here, we spent here. And then from our, the top of our breakout to when we dumped was about 50 days or so. So I wouldn't doubt that we could have a test, back down to that area in the next couple weeks or so. Just because it seems like these areas are getting quicker and quicker to get through. So when Bitcoin gets to that region, no one really knows, but uh, that there is a beauty in that we can, we can plan for different scenarios in Bitcoin, but Bitcoin will eventually just do whatever it wants to do. So as far as the downside, uh, still expecting a retest of somewhere within this region. If we get to about 9,000 or so and we retrace the entirety of this move, that definitely isn't a great sign. It's really what happens after that move happens that gives us the sign. So, you know, just to take a quick look again at our previous cycle, we did have this bit of a scary drop here. It was about 27, almost 30% here. Uh, as an initial drop. But the major drop that continued the cycle was the second one here, first week of August, which again a 20% plus move. But you could see that within that week, and I will go down to a daily and we'll look at that a little bit closer. You can see that within that week, price action eventually made it back up all the way to the 21 here and even closed above it. So price action was quickly able to retrace about 25%. And if I go to the daily here, we'll go to that same region. You can see that we had a pretty major dump, down to the 55 EMA here. But it was really our second break out of somewhat of a triangle that we formed up in this area here. It was really this break here that you can see pretty much got down to our 200 EMA here and our 200 simple that really brought us back up out of this region. So the follow through price action after getting down to what we know now is the 21 on the weekly EMA. That area right there, price action was able to quickly absorb, the majority of that move down, which is about 15% or so, and quickly move back up towards this region here. And then you could see from that point, really, we had our higher lows forming. We started coiling into this region here, and then you could see we broke up above our 21 and 55 here on the daily, and that was really the beginning of the following cycle. So what I'm trying to stress here is really the follow through price action after a dump. So even though I'm expecting some type of major dump coming, and we could see just to quickly mention here, even in our just our previous bull cycle here, we had major corrections, multiple times throughout months, throughout days, during the cycle. So even though we had this major dump here, you could see that just a couple months later, this was July of 2016. So really towards the end of the year here, December 16, you could see that we dumped about 30%, and then following that we rallied, and then we dumped again, upwards of 35%. So it's very, to me, it's a positive sign to have those dumps and recoveries, and it's to be expected. So let's just go to current price action on the daily, and we could see something similar happening where we've come towards the top of this top of this range after a breakout from our consolidation from our lows here. Last time it was an ascending triangle. This time we have somewhat of a symmetrical triangle, or something similar that formed here. Definitely in some type of a triangular shape. And you can see that we haven't had something that looks like a scary drop just yet. And I think that that scary drop would look, something like this, where we come down a pretty substantial amount, maybe down to the mid 9,000s or so. And there is a a CME gap on the Bitcoin chart. I believe it's at 9,600. We can actually we can take a look at that. So yeah, we do have a CME gap here on the daily chart. And really it's yep, so it's about 9,600 to 9,900 or so where we have that gap. So I wouldn't doubt that Bitcoin can make it back to that area there to go ahead and fill that professional gap, which it definitely is a valid idea, and I wouldn't use that alone to describe why I expect a move back down to that region, but because it does coincide with our chart here in Stamp. A test down to that 9,600 to 9,900 would really be, a test right into this B zone here. And that pretty much would be a perfect retest for myself. It's really when we start getting into this A zone that I would be a little bit more fearful of price action, maybe coming back down towards this area here. But really, I don't want to speak about that until we get there. I want to stay on topic with the 96 to the 9,900. We also have our 100 EMA and 200 EMA here on the daily, pretty much in line with that region. A little bit lower on the 200 EMA, but still very similarly in line with that area. That would also be the 9,800, 9,900 area. That would be the supply line for our triangle before our breakout. So again, multiple reasons as to why Bitcoin can come back down here to that 9,600 area without really breaking market structure too much. So that's really the main ideas currently for Bitcoin. I hope this video isn't too long, but that's really where I see Bitcoin, moving maybe for the next couple months or so. But I do want to stress that I believe that the Bitcoin bull cycle or bull market has started, and I don't think that really the only thing that could shift that idea for myself is if we break below these zones again. So if we end up coming below this A zone, which I know is pretty deep here at around 8,300 or so, that would pretty much be the nail in the coffin for myself, just because that would be such a major rejection of higher prices, and it would also bring us lower than this consolidation area here, and typically that's a negative sign, just because when price action consolidates, really the idea of that consolidation, the reason for that consolidation is to determine a fair value for an asset. Even if you think that 9,000 is way overpriced for Bitcoin, we can see that the market does not. Right? We can see that the market has no problem pushing Bitcoin from 9,000 all the way to 12,000 and creating behavioral change that we haven't seen in Bitcoin for years. So that the reason, the idea behind consolidation is to find fair market values, to find buyers and sellers willing to, add or remove orders in a specific price point. And you can see that the buyers were able to overtake the sellers in this consolidation, and we haven't had that happen in multiple years. So, all of that is just to give credence, give a reason to the idea of why I believe that Bitcoin has entered the bull market, or its current bull market, and do think that we'll see higher prices really soon. Um, so just to wrap up the video, I do want to speak about RSI on the daily in this region here. So I do believe that Bitcoin moves in cycles that pretty much rhyme. They're definitely not the same exact, but they seem to have similarities that we can point out that are consistent and that have consistently made me profits. So I don't mind using them and mentioning them. So just to quickly look at RSI where we are currently and what price action looks like, related to this kind of RSI. So you could see, again, we're at the top of our current breakout, above the 21 still here on the daily, and you can see that RSI is around 44 or so. And if we go back to our 2016 breakout, which again also was in August, so just a more credence to the idea of rhyming. You could see that here's the top of our breakout, and you can see that again we're currently at a 44 or so. So Bitcoin price action around 44 here. You can see that back in 2016, this was right, as we were Bitcoin was around a 44 on the RSI as we were breaking down towards the 21 and the 55 here. The 21 and the 55 are a lot closer to current price action today, so that's why I don't think that the drop will be as major. But my focus, again, is on the RSI here and what we could see happening in the RSI. So even though we had, again, a major drop of, upwards of really about 30% from the highs to the lows, around 780 or so down to around 540 or so. You can see that the RSI did not make it to oversold conditions. Which I don't really use that term too often either, but we could see that it didn't make it to the 30 line here. But what we can see happened in that area is because of that drop, we started to form a consolidation up at the top here. You can see that we had, really we were shaking in between the 25 and we were being supported by the 21 until you can see that wasn't able to hold much longer. We pretty much started closing, daily after daily after daily for maybe 2 weeks or so below the 21 here, and then eventually resulted in that drop. And you could see that second drop, which again was really the most major drop before our bull market, really flourished, was that drop from about 650 down to about 460 or so. Again, another 30% drop, and you can see that broke us into our, deep into oversold conditions. We got down to pretty much about a 9 reading, and that was pretty much it, and that was the end of the sell-off. And from that point forward, Bitcoin pretty much just rallied. And the reason I bring that up and the reason I want to close on that today, we could see pretty much similar price action happening. The major difference is that really that we have our 21 a lot closer to price action, but we haven't hit our 55 just yet. So really what I would be expecting is a move down to this 21 here, and then I'd be looking for what RSI looks like in that moment, especially on daily here. So we haven't gotten down to the same reading that we were in 2016, in August of 2016, which was around 30, 39 or so, when we had our initial 30% drop. But it's really that second test, back down into really the low 20s, and maybe even back down to the single digits, which is really what I'd be looking for specifically on the RSI. If we could come back down to single digits, and I also see price action maybe being supported by this, 98, 9900 area at that point. That would be a major, sign to me that we're ready to turn around and start moving back towards the upside, especially if we have that follow-through price action. So really, I want to close on that, RSI being, here at around like the mid 40s, mid 50s area. Whereas in our previous cycle, we saw that RSI get down to about a 9 reading um, before we started moving back up towards the upside. So I want to close on that just so that the main idea of what I'm looking for, what I'm preparing for, is known, which is a move to the downside, but really eventually a continuation of this into our bull trend. Um, so that about wraps it up. Again, I want to apologize that it's been so long since the last video. I'm going to try to crank these out, a lot more often than I have. Try to be a lot more consistent and on top of what I want to do. So, thank you all for watching. I really do appreciate it. I know this video is probably a bit long now, but thank you again so much for watching. Um, and I'll update you guys in a couple of days.